Hey, what's up? COVID-19, the novel coronavirus. I'm an English teacher. Usually I like novels. Has made us all become teleteachers, even if we had no experience doing that kind of thing before. It's left many of us teachers wondering, how can we best teach our students at this time? How can we help them learn and grow as we always have? That's why I made these videos. I call this series TIFTO, short for Tips for Teaching Online. Tiptoe through the tulips? I'm an education professor and a 20-year teaching veteran, but I don't have all the answers. Each episode, though, I'll try and share an idea with you. There's no such thing as a one-size-fits-all approach in teaching. But here's one thing you could consider. Modify or reject as you see fit. You know yourself and your students best. That all said, here we go with today's idea. All students are different and learn differently. I don't care if your class is labeled honors or remedial or AP or whatever. There's no such thing as a homogeneous classroom, unless you have a class of just one student. It's kind of lonely. We've had 40 years of research that tells us that one-size-fits-all approaches don't serve students well. That treating all students the same way because we've somehow judged their ability to be at the same level doesn't serve them well either. We've all been told for a long time that differentiating our instruction is best practice. But now the COVID-19 crisis has made differentiation a necessity. Students are in so many different situations vis-a-vis their ability to engage with class that there no longer is a way that you can do the same thing and teach to the middle and hope it works well enough for most students. Fortunately, technology has made differentiation more feasible than ever. For all its disadvantages, and there are many, remote learning is a boon when it comes to personalizing learning processes for our students. So there are three main reasons we might want to differentiate for our students: readiness, learning preference, and interest. And the three main ways in which we do it is through selection of content, learning processes and activities, and of products that we ask students to create for assessment purposes. So, readiness level. I prefer Carol Tomlinson's term readiness level to ability level because saying ability sort of implies that your aptitude for a certain subject is fixed, that it won't ever change. It's the self-fulfilling prophecy of thinking, I'm just bad at math, or the nervous state of thinking, I'm good at math, but being afraid to try learning challenging things because any setback makes you doubt if you really are as good at math as you think. But readiness level means just that. I am ready for two-variable algebra right now. Or I'm not ready for two-variable algebra right now, but I will be once I work up to it. Even when we use this sort of terminology and the philosophy behind it with our students, sometimes they still decide that they're being labeled the smart kids or the dumb kids. If we differentiate and give kids at higher readiness levels more challenging work and students who are struggling easier work. But in an online or remote setting, it is much easier to conceal who's getting what kind of work relative to one another. Most learning management suites let you assign students different work differentially, and no one's the wiser. Unless, of course, they talk to each other, which of course they will, but what can you do? Anyway, it's what kind of work. By more challenging, I don't mean that Jamila does 3 pages of math practice problems while Mikey only does 2 pages, or that Mikey reads 2 books for English while Jamila reads 1. It means the kind of work is different, more advanced for students at more advanced readiness level. That both Jamila and Mike get 1 page of math problems, but that page for Jamila deals with more complex concepts. Or both Jamila and Mike are reading that same book in English class, but you're asking Jamila to focus on plot and characters, while you're asking Mike to focus on themes and motifs because he's at a higher readiness level. You basically create a suite of resources and tasks for multiple readiness levels, and either students select on their own which they feel ready for, or you use the results of assessment to decide what to give whom, or both. If you're not teaching synchronously, then the pressure is off you to design a singular learning experience in the moment that somehow addresses students at all of these different readiness levels. So you can provide them with a selection, and it doesn't matter who's doing what when, as long as all students are progressing towards the goals you have set out for them. Those goals are key. They're what should be driving your instruction. So far, a lot of what I've been talking about is differentiation by content. Now in math or science, this can look like more or less advanced work on a hierarchy. In English language arts, it could look different. One way it might look is that the text the students are reading might differ. What that means is that an English teacher really could consider dumping that traditional idea of one class, one book, all at the same time. You might not even be able to get copies of one single book out to all of your students in a remote learning situation. So why not focus on a theme? Say, the individual trying to fight an unjust society's rules. Well, there's a zillion books that focus on that. So why not have some kids explore that through Shakespeare or Toni Morrison, and others through something a little simpler like The Hunger Games? You could make the determination of who reads what based on readiness level or even based on student interest. Kids are more engaged and learn better when the topic or subject matter is something they care about, something they choose. Remember, in a remote learning environment, the internet is your playground. You can find pretty much anything out there. So give them a robust menu. Differentiation due to learning preference is a little different. Rather than readiness level, which is always changing, or should be anyway, learning preference describes the way in which we learn most easily and most comfortably, which may or may not ever change. Some students will be able to learn better if we provide them with learning experiences that are in different formats or that cater to different senses: visual, auditory, kinesthetic. In a remote learning environment, you can hook students up with a wide variety of ways to try and learn the same content, through independently watching a resource like Khan Academy, to one-on-one telelearning with a teacher, or even with a classmate. So let's see, so far we've talked about differentiating by content and by process based on readiness level, interest, and learning preference. Now it's time to assess your students and see what they've learned. That is where differentiation by product can come in. Based on learning preference, interest, or readiness level, you can give students a wide variety of ways to show you what they've learned. They could write an essay, design a visual collage, make a speech, create a video. So long as you have rubrics that check for their mastery of the learning goals, then the format they use to show you that mastery shouldn't really matter. Ideally, you would use the same rubrics for any product they create for you, and that removes the notion of a hard way or an easy way to demonstrate their mastery. Or of earning points for sheer artistry, unless of course you're an art teacher. Now, don't get me wrong, differentiation is challenging. It means that instead of writing just one lesson plan, we're always writing several different plans for the same lesson, or at the very least, writing a lesson that has lots of different branches. But the alternative is teaching one lesson in one way to all our students and missing out on chances for a lot of them to learn as effectively as possible. Online remote learning presents us with an opportunity to create menus of different options and link to a wide variety of resources and learning modalities. So let's take advantage and find something positive about this crisis we're in. Send me your stories of how you managed to take advantage. You can always write me at edinfinitumpodcast@gmail.com. Thanks for watching. If you liked what you saw, subscribe and/or check out my podcast, Ed Infinitum, at www.ed-infinitum.com, available wherever it is you get your podcasts. Bye now, and stay healthy.